Testing 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna give a shout out to AG. He goes testicles 3, 2, 1. I don't know why he does that, but I love it. It's hilarious. AJ, love you, bro. Paranormal Podcast. Look it up. All right, here we go. What's going on, guys? My name is Drewski. I'm a Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies podcast and CW Operations and Survival. Guys, we got a good show for y'all. Before we get into that, I'm gonna let you guys know. You guys got any experiences? You guys got any prayer requests? Anything at all? You guys want to be on the show? Go ahead and shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. Or look me up on Instagram or Facebook. It's Cryptid Warfare. Those are where I'm the most active, so hit me up. And also, too, if you guys got any, cryptid problems, you guys need any information about that stuff, you guys need any help, we're more of like consultants and critter hitters for hire. You guys shoot me an email. It's at c.woperations17905@gmail.com, or hit me up on Instagram at Cryptid Warfare. We'll do anything to help you guys out. So anything with spiritual warfare, anything like that, cryptids, physical, spiritual, hit us up. We'll help out. All right, that's enough for that. Guys, before I introduce this guy, I'm going to give a little bio on him. All right. I'm just going to give you his first name. All right. His name's Jarrett. All right. He lives in, let's see, where's it at? Right here. All right, guys. His name's Jarrett. He's born and raised in Southwest Missouri, lives in Springfield, Missouri. Married to his best friend for 29 years this October 2nd. Buddy, I'm on my way. I'm going to be going on like 19 years, so I got another 10 to go to catch up to you, but we'll still be ahead. Anyways, yeah. So, guys, yeah, he's got 2 daughters. He's retired from the mosh pit of his 40s. Was a BMX kid. He put that to rest in his 30s. He is a artistic to share. His body says I'm 50, but his soul says he's at 25. That's what I'm talking about. And you know what? Some of us never get out of 16, bro. That's where I'm at.
Hey,
All right, guys. May I introduce to you guys Jarrett Hudson, the owner and operator of SteadFast. Oh, where the heck is it at? Yes, SteadFast Overland. Guys, they got great products. I go through rags like crazy. I am actually a rag freak, so I always got a rag in my back pocket, a rag on my war belt, rags on my freaking EDC bags and all that. And he's got awesome beard oil, guys. And anything like that when it comes to camping, equipment, anything like that, hit this dude up. He's a world of knowledge. This guy goes out a lot. So, may introduce to you JJ Hudson. I want to say Jarrett Hudson. So, glad to have you on, bro. JH, what up, buddy?
You too, dude, you can use that beard oil to lube your gun too, man. It'll work.
Okay. Yeah, it will, dude. Make it smell good too as them rounds ring out. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you won't have that gun barrel smell.
That's awesome, dude. Heck yeah. Okay, man, dude. Let's just get, dude. We've been friends for honestly going on pretty good minute now. We linked up on IG, and then we just totally kicked it off, bro. So
yeah,
it's been like that. Okay. We literally talk every day. So,
you want the story of how I found you?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear it.
Okay, and you just bear with me how this happened. Yeah. It was just like it was one of those deals, one of those whole God things, and it was so weird how it happened. And so let's say last August was when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was a basket case. I was not happy. I was mad at everything. And my ritual was I didn't listen to any podcasts on the weekends at all.
Yeah.
So I'd save them all up for Monday, and I'd never heard of your podcast at all, never heard your name, nothing. So whatever Monday in it'd been mid-September, I would say. I think it was like September. I looked it up. I think it was like September 20th, maybe. Anyway, I could look it back up. But I was like, well, okay, so I'm going to listen to whatever podcast. And I think it was Jessica Jones' podcast. And I listen to her stuff kind of sporadically.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I picked her out that morning. And she said the name Drewski like 30 times within about 30 minutes. And I was like, I literally want to punch this dude in the face named Drewski. I'm like, I don't want to hear his name again at all. And so I'm like, so I turned the podcast off. Guess who I go to next? Good old Tony Merkel. Guess who's on Tony Merkel's show?
TM.
Drewski. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I'm not liking you at all right now. Just because somebody called you Drewski.
That's funny.
So then I'm like, okay. So I listened to Tony Merkel, and your nickname Drewski just kept on and kept on and kept on. I'm like, for some reason I can't do this. Click over to the, hit stop that podcast, and guess what pops up next? Cryptid Warfare. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I gotta like Drewski now because that's 3 in a row, and I am no coincidence, they don't happen. So that's how it was. And I'm like, we've been buddies ever since. I think I even texted you that day or sent you a message that day, and
yeah,
we're buddies now.
Yeah, it's been like that. That's a trip, dude.
So take that how you will. Whatever that was supposed to be, that's how we met up.
That'll work, man. I like that. That's a good story, bro. I like that.
And I was like, I seriously was like, I don't want to hear his name again. Then, here we go.
Oh, that's funny,
that's awful, isn't it?
That's cool, man.
Well, so there you go. That's how we hooked up.
That's awesome, dude. That's funny, man. So yeah, man, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's just that's how when people are in situations, that's how God plays his little games with you. I wouldn't say games. That's how he puts people into your life when you least expect it. You don't want any new friends. You don't want anything. Here you go. That's what you get.
Happens, man.
You know what I mean? And it's happened before, but that was just like the most recent and like really pretty prolific 1, 2, 3 punch, and then here we are.
That's funny, dude. That's good stuff, man. Dude, let's talk about okay, so you and I have a lot of the same interests, man. A lot of camping, a lot of going out into the wilderness, stuff like that. You got this company, SteadFast Overland.
Yeah.
Good, definitely good products. I see you guys out there on your Forerunners and all that, going out to the wilderness, camping, stuff like that. What got you into that stuff, man?
Like growing up, I didn't do much camping because my dad was a truck driver, so he was gone all the time. And it was just me and my mom and my younger sister and older sister, and they didn't camp or anything like that. Well, then when my dad was home, he'd be home maybe like 4 days out of the month. So those 4 days were spent in what I call Uber man time. He was making sure that he was, raising a man. So it was those 4 days out of the month were pretty rough. So it was like, but as I got older, met Crystal. Crystal and I have been together since I was 15 and she was 16.
Dang.
So we've been
man.
together, dude. Like we've been married 29 years, but like I said, we've been together since I was 15 and she was 16, and I'm 50 now.
Dude, that's a trip. So, me and my wife were been the same way, high school sweethearts. I was 16, she was 15. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So it's like if we're always together. Like I said, best friend. We're always together.
Yeah.
But when I met her family camped all the time. They would go, weeks at a time fishing, camping. They always had some type of like trailer, camper, fifth wheel or something. So that just in turn started camping then. But the vehicle, the overlanding thing, which is basically just vehicle dependent camping, is all it really is. I didn't really get into that until about the past, I don't know, 5 years. Always been into cars. We've always had some type of like, hot rod of some sort. My dad was always into it. Way back in the day, for a job, I used to restore 67, 8, and 9 Camaros. That's all we did.
Nice.
So always been into cars, always had some type of project car or hot rod, something that I drove every day. Now, my 4Runner that I drive now was supposed to be my toy, but my nice Silverado I had started having engine problems. And I was like, out the door, I'll just drive the 4Runner every day. And dude, it's got almost 300,000 miles on it, and I would drive it cross country right now.
Dude, Toyotas are
and I can live
amazing,
out of
bro. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's set up. It's set up tent on top, big awning, so you can, if it's raining, you can still be outside your vehicle. I've got a shower house that I can pop out on the side, solar panel. Got a big battery bank that I can take in and out of it. Basically, at all times, it's about 85% ready to go. All I got to do is stop, pick up my refrigerator, pick up my battery, get some food and water, and
you're out.
We're good to go.
Yeah.
Some other little stuff, but it's kind of my wife put it. It's you're still trying to be GI Joe. Playing with GI Joes as a kid. This is what still my GI Joe toy. But
man, I think as a man too, like even though we grow older, like you said, like our toys change, but we still have that feeling of I want to go out and do stuff, and like for like feeling of like adventure, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, even though our toys change, we still act the same. But yeah, I hear you, man. That's how I am too. Just
it's
always.
Yeah. And that's why I don't ever. That's probably why I won't ever own like a really nice vehicle or a newer one, because you never know when you're going to go out to, like, if some people want to go to a camp spot that you pay for and just go into the campground, which is perfectly fine. I'll do that all day long. I got running water, electric, everything. But if you want to go way out there, the trails to get to some of these places here, like in Missouri, they're tight. Like, the one story I'll tell you, the trails are so tight that at points you can't even get out of your vehicle because you'll be like, the trees are that close, and you'd like just be stepping into the woods, or heck, in the water, whatever. It's just they're that tight. You go down into Arkansas a little bit. Down there, they really promote their trails and stuff. They take care of them a lot better. Trails are bigger, but there's way more people. So however you want to do it, it's just however you want to do it. And I don't know. When you got to go through water that's 3 feet deep, full of mud, do you want to take a $60,000 Tundra through there?
Negative.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I hear that, man. It's funny you say that, because yeah, dude, like it's funny because my wife, she's like total opposite. Like with her family, she's always been a glamping, is what she calls it.
Yeah.
And me, my dad, how he taught me, like, we're freaking living off the land. We're taking our backpack. We're going straight in as far as we can go. And we're gonna see like what we can do. And that's how I'm used to camping. I'm used to hammock camping or sleeping under the stars, stuff like that, and rucking and all that. And then of course, for my wife and the kids, we go to like those, like those KOAs or like those other spots, where it's just, but she's like, I will never, ever go out with you camping if you do it your way. I was like, that's all good. It's all good. To each his own. It's all good.
Yeah.
But I told her, I was like, But I told her, I was like, yeah, if I did take you, I think you'd make my life worse. So yeah, you're right. I'm not going to take you.
And what's funny though is that like if you would see my wife, she's all of 118 pounds and 5'3", and she's way more badass than I will ever be. So
Well,
if
yeah,
we
man,
wanted to go
she's been
camping
doing
out in the
this
middle
for
of
how
nowhere,
long?
huh? Do what?
She's been camping for how long?
Since
Before she even met you.
yeah,
Yeah.
she'd camp out in the middle of nowhere way before I would. And I've been out, like I've camped in. I wrote down my notes some of the haunted cemetery that I camped in.
Well,
The
heck yeah.
camp next to the witch's grave. Where else? Yeah, places like that. She wouldn't go do that, but if you took her out in the middle of the woods, perfectly fine. So I think the middle of the woods is creepier than the haunted cemetery.
I tend to agree with you, man. Yeah, I think to
Yep.
me the cemetery is probably like the safest place you can be
Yeah.
because everybody's everybody's dead, so no one's gonna
Yeah.
mess with you. But
And
yeah,
that haunted cemetery trip is two different guys have it on their YouTube channel. I think I may have sent you the link one time
yeah,
to the
you did.
behind the scenes, and that was that was supposed to be we're going to invite Jarrett and not tell him what we're doing. They thought they were going to spook. Yeah, they thought they were going to spook me, and I'm like, dude, no, this is right up my alley. I'm ready to go, And they're, oh, well, that didn't work. And I'm like, well, should have come up with something better. But that
awesome,
trip was different because that picture that I sent you of that kind of that tunnel that goes through the woods.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah, that one.
I do. Yeah, I remember that.
That was actually across the road from the supposed witch's burial plot or burial site where this haunted cemetery was. Back up the road, there was a single cemetery plot. And supposedly this woman was not allowed to be buried in this cemetery because everybody said she was a witch or whatever. That's the story that goes behind it. Basically, probably what it was is that when they tried to bury her, it was probably too wet or flooded down in that area. So they just buried her right there. And it just probably became I would say, just
legend.
Urban legend type thing. But definitely spooky out there. It's on the backside of Fort Wood Military Base up around Fort Wood, Missouri.
Yeah.
And the clientele that lives out in those woods, as in the humans that live out there, yeah, buddy, it is bad back there. It is. My dad was mad at me when he heard that we were camping back there. Like I said, I'm 50 years old. My dad was PO'd that I had stayed out there.
Really?
He's like, he goes, it's a wonder you're still here.
Dang, like, well, I guess they got some feral people out there, huh?
Oh, it's bad drugs back in there, and they just live on the backside of that army base. And we took a wrong turn, and we ended up going way down and way like a couple miles down on this road, and it dead ended just in the woods, and you had to turn around. But at that like turnaround spot, there was a family living in just like tents out there. I mean, and this is like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're just turning around. There's little kids out running around. Their dogs are all out running around, and it's like on a Friday night. And these little kids, I mean, like 5 and 6 years old, 8 at the most, just running around out in the middle of the woods. And I'm like, yeah. And the adults that lived there were very rough, very, very rough.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is where we're staying. I'm like, I made sure my thing that shoots those lead things out, I don't know if we can say those words.
You can. You're good.
I made sure it was, Pistola was very close to the heart. I was like, phew, this is rough.
Well,
but
yeah,
nothing
man.
happened.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah, well, since we're getting on this topic, yeah, man, why don't you go ahead and just start from the beginning, like, any experiences you had, things that happened to you throughout the years, stuff like that, man. Like, when did this all start for you?
Well, I was thinking about this, and it's really weird because the first thing that I can remember that's ever happened to me, I was probably like 10, maybe 12 in that age range. And where I lived at, there were no houses behind my house in this neighborhood, and you could go out in all this pasture out behind us. And it was like we were right on the edge of the city limits. So we would walk back through all these fields, and there were some ponds back there that we'd go fish in. There was like an old abandoned farmhouse and barn back in part of the woods. And if you kept going back, you'd end up at the railroad tracks, which, railroad tracks, all kids love to play on railroad tracks. But where we would go, there was a wet weather creek that ran through, that separated these two fields. Well, it ran underneath the railroad tracks. So when they redid the railroad tracks, they put a big, huge concrete underpass underneath it so that creek would run through it.
Yeah.
So the side that we would come in on was always dry. If you walked through the tunnel, that side was always wet. There was always water up and through that. So we would always cross through, jump down in. And I mean, it was like a 4 or 5 foot jump down into the creek. But the railroad tracks were, like 30 feet up above us.
Okay.
So it was way up there and super steep. And they had it all, the sides of the railroad tracks were all like, they had the big, huge, like 5 or 6 inch, what we'd call chat, but it was like big chat, big, huge rocks that's just buried in there. So you had to crawl up there. So if you're ever up there and a train came, dude, you're in a world of hurt because you had to jump down right on all that stuff. And it wasn't smart to be up there.
Yeah.
So we go and we crawl up on top of the tracks, and we kept hearing all these cows just throwing a fit. And there was just, when you got up to the railroad tracks, when you stood up there, there was pasture to your left, the creek, and it had trees that ran right down the creek, and then another pasture. The only time there was any cows in any of those fields was always the one to the left. So we crawl up there, and we hear these cows mooing and just going crazy. And we get up on top of the railroad tracks and we look down. So you got to remember, we're like 30 feet up above this pasture looking down. And all these cows are lined up like in the middle of this pasture, looking towards us where the pasture made a corner right here where the creek is and the railroad tracks, just, rectangle pasture. They were all staring down in this one corner. So we're trying to figure out what it was. And we get to looking down there, and there is a calf kind of like laying in the trees. And this tree line is only probably like 4 feet thick. Okay. Then it goes straight into the creek. And we're like, what the heck is going on? This calf is down here screaming. All these other cows up here are staying probably a good 50 yards away from this calf.
Yeah.
And they're screaming back and forth at each other. But when we're looking at this calf looked like its head was sticking out of the woods, but then it looked like it was setting up also.
Okay.
And so you kind of get you're kind of looking at like the back of something, and then the calf is like sticking out. Like something's holding it. So like if you're looking at me right now, like this, but then you can see a calf sticking out the side. And we're like, what the heck?
That's a trip,
so
dude.
What do 3 young guys do? You start throwing rocks at that.
Yeah.
So we're trying to chuck rocks down there to see if this cow would move, this little calf would move, and it would not move. It would try to, and it would just stay there and scream. We could never hit it because we were just like, aim is terrible. Our rocks weren't big enough. So I got the bright idea. I looked around, and on the one side of the railroad tracks, I found the old antique glass blue insulator bulbs that went up on power lines. You know what those are?
Yeah.
I found one of those, and they're like the size of a softball. And I just took that thing and I just threw it as hard as I could, ran and threw it all at once. Somehow or another, whatever this was that had its back towards us, nailed it right in the back of the shoulder, head, back, somewhere back here. And all you hear is this loud, just like a hoof and I don't know, just trees crash.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm like, what the heck? And all you hear is something running up through the water after that. It busted through the woods, into the water, up that creek and gone. And that baby calf kind of runs off back up to the other cows.
Oh, that's a
No
trip,
idea
dude.
what that was. I don't know. Bigfoot, mountain lion, bear. I have no idea. But it ran up through the woods, and everybody says bipedal this, bipedal that. Yeah, it was on 2 feet running, and I'm like, holy crap, what was that?
Oh, that's a
I'm like,
trip, dude.
still
So
this
was
day.
it? So was it running like the opposite away from you guys, like down away from you
Yeah,
guys in the
it
creek?
ran. Okay, so like, say if we were, so the railroad tracks. Say the railroad tracks were running east and west. It would have been
Okay.
running north.
Gotcha. Okay.
So away from us, but
Yeah.
it went through the woods, through the barbed wire fence, and then into the water up the creek.
How fast did it cut
And
out, you think?
it was just all happened so fast. It was just like whatever that was is gone. It was just gone running. That's all you could hear. But I never saw what it was, but it was definitely whatever that was holding that cow down on the ground. And I think we just kind of happened to be up there at the same time it was. And this is middle of the day, middle of the summer. Had to been, school summer break,
Yeah.
because we no other reason why I was back there.
Oh, that's a trip, man.
And then so like where that happened, if you went back into the other pasture where the abandoned farmhouse and barn were, we would always go into that barn. The house, there wasn't anything in it. It was just, there's just nothing there. It was just basically just a frame of a house, but the barn was still there. But we'd always go in there, and it always looked like there was something in there, because stuff would be like the hay. There's like old hay, just old hay from who knows how long, would always be kind of like pushed up in the corners, and up in the loft area was always kind of pushed up, like somebody had been sleeping in there. But I mean, that could have been who knows what, people or whatever we saw. Deer could have even been getting in the lower part of it and sleeping in there. But it was just a weird. It was very weird with the cow situation, because all those other cows did not want to come down there. It was. I still to this day I think about that all the time, because I remember just chucking that blue glass thing and kind of throwing it and kind of stumbling a little bit, and then looking up, and all you hear is trees breaking, and then something's running.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck, But
how about your friends? What did they say?
Well, my 2 friends that were with me were from India, and they
okay.
just kind of looked at each other. They were brothers,
Yeah.
and they were just like, "Huh." That's all I got out of them. That was it. They were just like, "Huh," They didn't. They never really said anything. They never really acted scared or anything. But it was very weird, very weird.
Yeah.
But that was take it how you will. I was 12. I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. It was just very weird.
Yeah.
How that happened. But
do they have any? Do they have any local legends or anything like that around that area? Or do they have anything similar? Anything eating cattle besides animals?
Nothing. Nothing any different than anybody else is going to say that I know of.
Yeah.
It was just kind of. I remember my grandparents. My grandparents were both raised up around north of where I was from, then little bitty just farm towns, and they're always talking about boogers. You know, you always hear of down south boogers. Well, there are boogers in Missouri too, which I never knew what the heck they were talking about. You know, don't go out there in the woods, boogers will get you. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
what the heck's a booger? You know,
I didn't know what that was either until I moved to the South, man.
yeah, it's like I didn't know what a booger was until, I don't know, 10 years ago, and somebody said, you know, boogers like Bigfoot, and I'm like, really? Because I've been hearing about that since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and then after that, you know, we would still go back there, but I mean, the only other time we ever found anything was that was weird back in those fields was, you know, cow skulls and stuff like that. But I think that what we found was probably where they were taking cows that had passed away and just dumping them back there, because it was a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Just at the bottom of the field. So, you know, it wasn't anything spooky or anything, you know, like out in the middle of the woods and there's cow skulls hanging in a tree, you know, nothing like that. Now my older sister, when she was running around and stuff like that, they'd get to messing around. She was always talking about spooky stuff. You know, they'd go hang out in, you know, cemeteries and stuff like that. And you got to remember, this is like the 80s, you know, mid 80s, stuff like that. So kids were wild back then.
Yeah, dude. We're 4 was at a high.
Yeah.
Gen X.
But yeah. Trying to think, like after that, I don't, you know, like I said, that was like probably 12 at the oldest at the time. And then, you know, just being a kid and playing around, riding bikes and just doing stupid stuff. I don't ever remember anything else happening then. But then so this is kind of how my story goes. That would be like the first weird thing that happened to me, you know.
Yeah.
Then in 1988, October 10th, 1988, I was riding my bike home from school, and actually I'd already come home from school. We had rode back up to school, and we were jumping some jumps and stuff that we had made. And anyway, so I was riding my bike, you know. Why would you go back to school after you've been out of school all day? I don't know. But we had rode back to school, done our thing. I was riding back home, and had rode down this road that we had to get to my house. It was just a 2-lane road, so there's no, you know, there's no such thing as a bike lane back then. So we were riding on the right side of the road with traffic, you know, and it was just, like I said, 2-lane road. And the same guy that was with me at the railroad tracks was with me then. We were best friends forever. And we were riding, and I was in front of him and to his left just a little bit. So all I remember is him yelling "car," and then, dude, it was just lights out. And I was hit by a car just down the road from my house. And my bike went under their car. I bounced off the hood, you know, flew like another 40 or 50 feet into oncoming traffic, straight to my head on the asphalt, and then into the ditch. So the bad thing about it was that I'd had a few concussions before then from riding BMX and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then I get hit by this car and have a skull fracture. I'm having seizures. My blood pressure's going through the roof. I'm literally dying in the ditch right there. And this is the whole, I had probably told you about the near-death experience thing. This is it. And so get hit by the car, have a skull fracture, having seizures, blood pressure's going through the roof. Like, all three of those should have killed me. And somehow or another, they load me up in an ambulance, take me to the hospital in my hometown, and then ship me up here to Springfield, because they didn't have helicopters back then to fly anyone. They would have probably flown me here to Springfield because they couldn't take care of me in my hometown. They just didn't have the equipment to do it. And so it's like one of those deals of like, when you're asleep, but you're still kind of conscious to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, you're not, but you are.
Yeah.
Something's going to wake you up. But when you've had like a severe head injury, you're out. I mean, it's lights off. And I remember at one point kind of coming to, I think, my mom said I never did because she was in the ambulance with me. But I remember like looking up in the ambulance and like passing a semi on the highway. And my mom's like, "You never woke up. You were out cold the whole entire time." I was like out cold for hours, And I remember that. And then I remember and I remember this, like, it's as real as you could get. I mean, and I've heard people say that when they've had like an outer body experience, that it's like, it's real. It's almost more real than real time, like right now. It's just more real. And I remember sitting there and I remember what I thought I was coming to, kind of waking up. And I remember seeing two people down at my feet. But the way I was looking at them, like I was laying in the bed horizontally, right, like this. But these people would have been down here, right? I'm looking at them from way over here, up in the air, like looking down at them.
You're having like an out of body experience.
Yeah, and I'm like, just looking at them, like, who are these people? Like,
yeah,
it didn't make any sense of who they were. All in white. One of them was a woman. She had bright red hair. The guy standing next to her in all white with a big white hat on, almost like a big, huge cowboy hat, like a 10-gallon cowboy hat, but a flat brim.
Yeah.
And then there was a third one over here to the left or to the right of them, just kind of setting over. You're kind of just not really sitting down, but kind of in the background. And I just remember, like, what the heck am I looking at? And I could see all the stainless steel lights and all the tubes and everything that was around me. And just sitting there looking at them. And it was like, what the heck? What am I looking at? And I just remember the two that were standing up looking at me said, "Well, he's not supposed to be here."
Oh, heck. Yeah.
And that was it. He's not supposed to be here.
It's not his time
And then
yet.
all of a sudden, I remember I woke up and I looked at my mom. I looked at my grandpa. And I remember looking at my mom going, "I think I'm going to get sick." And dude just threw up all over my poor mom. It was a bad deal after that. When I woke up, it was just like, I remember being awake. It was it was a rough, dude. It was pretty weird. But it's one of those things now that I've kind of pieced things together from that because, dude, there's years of my life that I don't remember from that. Head injury has caused, like, I don't remember any of my junior high, 3 years in junior high. Don't remember any of it.
Yeah,
there's like bits and pieces that I'll pick out, but the bulk of it gone. Don't know where it's at. Just completely gone. I don't really remember anything until that happened when I was in 9th grade. I don't remember 7th and 8th grade. I remember part of 9th grade, and that's it. And then I don't really remember anything in my brain until 10th grade. And this will blow you away too. 10th, so like at the schools we went to, you had 7th, 8th, and 9th were junior high. 10, 11, 12 was high school.
Yeah.
So somehow in my foggy state of mind, I made it through 9th grade and into high school into 10th grade. And the only thing I remember, or my memory picks back up, is when I saw my wife, Crystal, she had been in a car wreck with her grandma. And I was in a car with my dad, and we saw her grandma's car being towed on a tow truck. And I saw the girl in the tow truck, and I was like, I go to school with that girl. Wow, she's pretty. And then they drove by,
Yeah.
And I remember going back to school Monday, and I was like, who is that? So then I, put the moves on her, and she hated my guts for about 8 or 9 months, and then finally
Hey,
caved
persistence
into
matters.
caved into my suave styles, and that's that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, that whole incident is really weird, and it's like that whole out of body experience stuff. And I know people have crazy stories and all this, and they get to see all that. But mine was like, it was almost like I accidentally beat my guardian angels to the accident scene, and I beat them there where they should have, been there.
Probably doing coffee break or something. They're like, "Oh crap, Jarrett's
Coffee
gone."
break, and I beat them to it. But I just remember them literally saying, "You're not supposed to be here."
Yeah, that's a trip, man.
So crazy.
So okay, so was their voice kind of booming, or was it just chill, or was it like how you and I were talking? Like were they like in shock? Like, dude, like you're not supposed to be here.
Well, that was the thing. Is it like I don't remember any like facial features, but all I could tell is one. I could tell one was a female, the other one standing up was a male, and the one sitting down was male looking. Okay, and when that was said, it was almost like all three of them at one time inside my head said, "You're not supposed to be here." Like, boy, you screwed up. You are not supposed to be here.
They're being stern with you. Okay, I got you.
Go back.
Get out.
Like,
yeah.
Get back. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. But that's what's weird is that even after that, I told my mom about that. She thought I was absolutely insane. My dad, being my dad, he just kind of whatever. My grandparents. I told then like later in life, I told some people at church that we went to for like 15 years. I told one guy the story, and he's like, "Dude, you need to go to counseling." I'm like, "Dang, I'm trying to tell people this story of what happened, and I'm just like getting cold shouldered through the whole thing." It's like, so I just quit telling people, and then now I'm like, I don't care. Who knows? You want to hear this crazy story? This is what happened to me. Here, listen to this.
Dude. Hey, yeah, I do. I totally believe you, man. And what's a trip was one of my sergeants. Like when I first started law enforcement, one of my first sergeants, he had a similar experience too. He actually got in a gunfight and he got hit up pretty good. And as he was bleeding out, right before the paramedics started putting tourniquets and stuff on him, he was having an out of body experience. Well, he saw his grandma, and she's like, "Boy, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "What?" And next thing you know, he gets shocked, and he comes back too, and he's in the freaking ambulance, and they're just like doing all this stuff to him, and he's like, "What the freak was that?" I believe you, man, 100%, dude. That's a trip.
It is definitely, and it was so real. Like I've tried to explain it to people. It's like it's more real than being in the room right now.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I back that up too. Like a couple of guys I interviewed. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I think his name was Mark, Pastor Mark. He died and he went to hell. He died as an atheist and went to hell, right? But then God brought him back. Well, what he was saying also too, he actually backs it up biblically too, that eternity, like we can only fathom here with what we see, taste, touch, and all that stuff here on earth, right? There, it's like our minds are fully opened. We're basically perfect on how we're supposed to experience things. And that's what he said. He's like, dude, the eternity is more real than air is here. It's so freaking real. He's like, I can't explain it, but you just feel it. You know it. Like it's just more real than what we're doing right here. I get you can't explain it.
I've had so like the church that we go to now it's a non-denominational church, but they're pretty they're pretty. I mean, they believe in speaking in tongues and stuff like that. And some people just, as soon as you say that, they're like, "Oh,
yeah, it's almost like taboo."
Like, it's like, the past church that we were at. No, that does not happen. That does not happen. So when we switch churches, we go to the church we go to now, and we knew going into it that we were going to be out of place for a little bit.
Yeah.
And but we were out of place at the other church. We were trying to be a little bit more up tempo, and the church we went to, you didn't raise your hands, you didn't do any of that stuff. You just stood there. All you did, good old Southern Baptist church. You just stood there, So the church we're at now, like I said, they believe in tongues. But where I'm going at with this is that, like, so you go there and you're like, okay, I can get into this. I can understand. I understand what they're saying. You can speak if you have that gift, you can speak in tongues privately. You can speak in tongues publicly. If it's public, there's usually a translator of some sort, and this would happen in the middle of church. Somebody would speak in tongues or just speak out and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I'm not buying it. I'm not getting it, And like, somebody would say something and like somebody would like give their translation of it or whatever. And what's crazy at this church too is that, like, the worship team, dude, they are so good. They're all professionals. Like I was telling you that the one guitar player used to be in the band Norma Jean.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, they're awesome. And you wouldn't think this would be going on in this church, in this setup. And so I'm trying to think. This would probably be a couple years into going. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, sorry. It's just like you froze up and I didn't hear anything. So like a couple years into going to church there, so we're used to people speaking in tongues and stuff like that. But I just wasn't buying a lot of it. It's like, these people are doing this for
Hey, hold on. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, the people speaking in tongues, it was more like they were kind of doing the showboat, a little bit. It's like I had this feeling, it's like, this is some baloney. And as you're going through this, you're kind of like, man, I just wasn't getting it. And then one Sunday morning, a little lady in front of us, in between songs, she says, speaking in tongues, and says something, whatever. And it was like one of these weird things. It was like she was directly in front of me and the guy directly behind me. As soon as she stopped saying whatever she was saying, this guy behind me said what she was saying in English.
Okay.
Out loud to everyone. And when that happened, it was like I was in between the two of them, and I was like, whoa, that's what that is.
Gotcha.
And it was like, that one was real, and it was like, okay, I get it now. I totally understand it now. It was one of those, special moments in church where you get the goosebumps and you have no idea why you just got these goosebumps. And it was like, so now it's like when you hear people speaking in tongues, it's kind of like, don't think it's baloney, because somebody may be getting what they're saying, and it's like it's not meant for you, it's meant for someone else.
Yeah.
So it's like, when it's meant for you, like I was supposed to be in between those two people at that time, and I totally got it. So
what did he say? What'd she say?
Do what now?
What did he say or she say? Like, what was the message?
Some song had played, and then she said whatever, it was in, she said it in whatever her, I guess you call it, spiritual language was. I didn't understand any of it. And then whatever, man, it was kind of hard. It's kind of hard to remember back that far. It was something along the lines of, just your it was kind of like a, how to treat your neighbor, and all just along that lines. It was just the whole, like, how to treat people good and all this and that. It was it was hard to, I don't know. I can't really remember all of it, but I just remember parts of it.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, Jay.
It's like, you got to remember, I've had my bell rung a lot. It's like, short-term memory does not exist with me. So it has to be like,
I got you, man.
It was one of those. If I remember right, it was something she said. Whatever she said, and it was about treating your neighbors with respect and treating others with respect. It was all along your respect type stuff and how
basically,
to treat people.
Like basically love God, love people. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something along that line. But and that's church. That's and like we work at church too. On every other Sunday, we're ushers, my wife and I, and you kind of get to stand in the back of the crowd and you get to kind of see the workings of it when people are there. And it's, I've seen things when, there was at our old church, so my church career, I've taught Sunday school, I've taught youth groups, I've taught college age kids. My wife and I were co-leaders with a college group, and we'd meet, every Sunday, Sunday night. And, so we've had our hands in church, all different facets of it. I was a deacon at my other church, so I've been in the inner workings of it and the spiritual workings of it, I guess you'd say. And we had a get together with all the college kids where we had them all up on stage. The guy that led the college group was actually the worship pastor at this church, and he was complete rock star. That's one of those guys. And we had all these kids up on stage, and all the kids were standing around the band. And me just being the guy I am, I was kind of back out of the crowd, kind of watching everybody. And it was one of those deals. It was one of those moments where music was playing. He was kind of talking, kind of praying over everyone. And it was like, I was just standing there and I'm like, holy moly, we are standing inside a bubble right now. And it's like, you could just put your hands up and like you could put your hands out of this bubble and then put your hands back in. So I kind of like stepped up on a step, and it's like you could literally see this bubble around all these kids. And I'm like, what am I seeing right now? And I'm like, okay, maybe I should just get back in the bubble and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but we're getting back here, stuff like that. I've seen stuff like that. One time on the church we're at now, I don't know what was going on. Music was playing, and it was like a curtain of purple went from one side of the stage to the other side of the stage and just gone.
Yeah.
Just gone. Just went by and just gone. And I'm like, am I having a stroke, seizure, something? What was that? And I'm like, we'll just let it be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, dude. Church will, if you're in it, sometimes church will bring out some things, and I don't know what it is, and it's wild.
I agree with you, man.
Our church likes to get pretty crazy. They love their music, and they're big into the music, and music can get people wound up. I made the joke in the little intro about retiring from the mosh pit when I was in my 30s or 40s, whatever it was. And that's a true story. And I've always been into heavy music, and went to a show, me and a friend of mine. So of course, when we show up, we're like, the age of the parents of all these kids at this show. We're definitely the old guys in the back. And I remember looking up at this kid about my size, about 5'8". He was just built, just a monster, but just this brute of a little guy. And he looks at me and he puts a mouthpiece in, grits his teeth at me, and
getting ready to mosh.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. We're done. I retired.
My days are done.
I said, you retired me without even touching me, bud. So we're good.
That's funny, dude.
Oh man.
I had an incident in a mosh pit. This is oh man, this is probably like one of like the like best concerts I ever went to. It was up in Colorado Springs over at the World Arena, and I got to see Story of the Year. They opened up for Hoobastank. Hoobastank opened up for POD, and
Oh yeah, there
POD
you go.
opened up for Linkin Park, dude.
Yeah.
So the whole time, I was just crowd surfing. Me and my buddies were just crowd surfing the whole time. And we get thrown out in the front. We run all the way to the back, and that's all we did the whole night.
Yeah.
Well, then as soon as Hoobastank came on and started playing Out of Control,
Yeah.
pits started forming, dude. And I'm on the crowd surfing. And next thing I know, instead of getting directed to the front, they start to push me towards the pit. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And all I remember is this dude in this freaking green mohawk with the white beater on, tattoos, with these jeans, with the chain, with these big old Doc Martens on, just getting it and kicking everybody. And I get thrown in, and I get up, and he freaking kicks me in the stomach, and I drop back down, and I get up, and I give a thumbs up to this dude, and everyone pulls me back up and puts me to the freaking front, man. But yeah, dude, I was like, okay, I think I'm done doing mosh pits, man. I'm not.
Well, that's funny. You said POD. So when I first moved here to Springfield, I worked at. You'll get a kick out of this. You remember Blockbuster Video?
Oh, I missed that. Okay, dude. Yes.
Did you ever go to a Blockbuster Music? They had music stores where they sold CDs.
Really?
Yes,
I
was an assistant manager. I was an assistant manager at Blockbuster Music.
That's a trip. That's cool.
Yeah, so we would get free passes to go to all shows all over Springfield. So this is when nobody had heard of POD, and I don't even know who the heck they were opening up for, but they were playing at some little club downtown Springfield. And I was like, I know who, I wanted to go see POD. Didn't care who the other band was. Don't even remember who they were. I was there to see POD. So we got in early, like hours before anyone else came in. So we like ate supper there. They had pizza and stuff like that. So I remember we had sat down, we ate. There were just people kind of wandering around. They're setting the show up. So I kind of got up and walked into the other side of the venue where there were some other booths, but nobody ever went over there. So I just kind of walked in there and I was kind of looking around to see what was going on. And Sonny, the lead singer, is sitting in a booth counting money, just wads of money. And this is had to be the merch money. And he's just like counting, and this is back when he had
dreads,
all the dreads, when they were down to his butt. And this has got to be like 93, 94, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 90, 93 or 94. And I remember walking by him, and he kind of looks up. We kind of make eye contact. And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he just kind of looks at me and gives me and that's it. That's all I got out of him. He went back to count his money. I was like, "All right, bud, let's walk on."
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, it was early in their career, but yeah, he was counting. They had to be their merch money. And I just was like, "Hey, how's it doing?" Total fanboy, and I get a head nod, and that was it. And I'm like, "Cool, see." Later.
You ever heard of a band called Pillar?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know the guitar player really good. Noah Henson, the dreads, the guitar player, the dreads guy. Yeah, I know him. He actually. Okay, so quick story. Him and his wife went to our church for the first time, right? Well, our church is like now it's like I think it's about like 10,000, but back then it was like about I think it's running about like 5,000 at the time. And then I was actually like the head of security at our church, right? Well, it's funny because a lot of people in our church they just listen to contemporary Christian stuff like that. Well, I'm a straight up metalhead, dude. So I listen to like Disciple, Demon Hunter, Pillar, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I grew up on that stuff, and I seen Noah walk by. I was like hitting my buddy. I was like, dude, you know who that is? And he's like, no. I'm like, just freaking Noah Henson. And he's like, who is that? I was like, the guitar player from Pillar. And he's like, what? I was like, I'll forget you. I'm going over there.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, no, better yet, come with me. Because my buddy Jarrett, he was actually like the sheriff's deputy at the time over there. So I was the head of security. He's a sheriff's deputy next to me. We roll up, and I was like, "Hey, excuse me, sir." And Noah turns around, and he's all, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, is your name Noah Henson?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I just want to let you know your car's getting towed right now because it's parked in an illegal area. So either you move it or my officer right here is going to tow it." And he's like, "Are you serious, dude?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm just joking, bro. How you doing? My name's Andrew. I love your music, bro." And he's like, "Oh, you freaking douchebag. What's up?" And then that's how we kicked it off. That's how we kicked it off, man. But it was funny, though, when she mentioned you seen Sonny counting money.
Yeah.
I was thinking in my head right off the bat what I would do. I would walk by and like 45, 30, 102,
No.
76, just to jack them up, dude. But yeah,
no way. I was kind of intimidated. He's not, like, I mean,
he looks mean, bro.
He's an intimidating looking dude.
Yeah.
And I'm just, like I said, I'm just,
just
white boy
starstruck,
from the Midwest, and I was like, okay.
That's cool, man. That's a trip, dude.
But yeah, I've got so many music stories and stuff like that, and just my life's just been all over the place with back to like you said, like the band Pillar.
Yeah.
I was never ever into Christian music. I had been going to church forever. Christian music was played at church on Sundays and Wednesdays, and that was it. I had no clue. At this would have been 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, 2007. So I'm like, well into my. I'm old. I'm in my late 30s.
Yeah.
And I had never really heard of Christian hardcore music at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupid. I'd seen it and I was like, this is dumb stuff, dumb. Because there was a time when like Christian rock was awful.
Oh, yeah.
Awful.
Wow.
So I go to a show to see the band Terror, I mean, they're a hardcore band. They're one of my favorites, still is. This band that opened up for them was called War of Ages.
Okay.
Had never heard of them, never seen them, nothing. So I'm kind of looking around, go to their merch booth and kind of look, and I'm like, these guys are a Christian heavy metal band. And they're opening up for Terror and this other band that was called like, I don't remember if it was Bury Your Dead or something like it. Something just awful name and this and that. So they hit the stage first. And I remember they all grouped up on the stage. They prayed before they came out. The crowd was booing them because they were praying on stage. Yeah. And then they turned around and just mowed the crowd over.
Melted faces, dude.
Yes, I found it. Then after that, dude, I was hunting Christian hardcore stuff down, and so yeah, so still War of Ages is still one of my favorite bands ever, but like today, and we're so off topic, off subject of
you're good, man. We're good.
Dogman, whatever. But I knew this is how this was gonna go because of the first story of how I hated your name, and now we're buds. We could, like we've never met in person, but if we did, it would just be like, "Hey, bud, what's up? Let's go."
Yeah.
So today at work, I was listening to the band Kubla Khan.
Okay.
Dude, heavy. And then I was listening to Doc Watson.
I'm gonna check it out.
Doc Watson is this old school bluegrass guy. He's been passed away for 30 years. And I'm
looking him up on Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, you if you listen to Doc Watson, you'll know about 90% of the songs because it's old bluegrass stuff that so many people have redone in different forms, country or rock or stuff like that. But yeah, Doc Watson, old man. And people go, man, your music taste is too weird.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Watson. Yeah. It's all over.
Huh?
Yeah. It's all over. I love it.
But yeah, so let's hear. I can give you some more stories here.
Well, hold on real quick before you do that. What's a trip though? Okay, you live in Springfield, Missouri, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You ever heard of the Skywatch News, Derek Gilbert, all those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He lives over there too. But I know a couple buddies of mine used to live there in Springfield, Missouri. They used to go to that like that Christian college. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, there's like 4 of them.
Yeah,
Evangel.
anyways. Evangel, that's what it is. Evangel, yeah.
Yeah.
Evangel, yeah. But I guess they said that it's a big hub, man. A big hub for music, for like
Oh, yeah,
Christian
it
music
is.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was
It
pretty
used to be
interesting.
huge. It used to be really big, and it's kind of tamed down now. But it's just kind of. See, like Springfield's the third biggest city in Missouri.
Okay.
But when you live here, you would never know that you're in like a big city ever.
Really?
It's like it's not country. It's just still like normal sized town, but it's 350,000 people.
It's huge. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wide. Yeah.
It's spread out.
Yeah.
But see, like where I'm at my house right now, I can be in Republic, Missouri in 5 minutes. I can be in Battlefield, Missouri in 5 minutes. I can be in Willard, Missouri in 5 minutes. But I can also be on the other side of Springfield in 30.
Yeah.
So it's spread out pretty good, but it's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in this area.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you about. Let me see. I wrote some stuff down. I was trying to think which would be the best to tell you about.
Go ahead, man. Tell them all. Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, did you get that video I sent you today of the raccoon playing with the meth pipe?
I did. What's funny is I sent that to my buddy Brian, who's on my ops team, because he's got a raccoon named Cooney.
Yes, I'm friends with him on Instagram. I'm like, this dude's got a raccoon.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's funny because he's going
like
through he's going through his licenses to get him as a
therapy raccoon.
Yes. Yeah. He has like a service pet. So
my oldest daughter has a therapy cat, so she could have it in her apartment. Right.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Here, this is. So this would have been about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had gone. Another kid that was probably, he's 25. No, he might be 30 now. Anyway, we went out for a day trip just out in the woods, down towards Branson. We were just going to go do some trails and just driving. Well, we went to the area that we were going, and we started going down these trails. Well, we got way out there, and we're in 4 low, doing 5 miles an hour at the top. So it's like just slow, just creeping, because it's like it was lots of mud, lots of water, steep rock, everything. And so we get down to the bottom. I'm going to say it's a mountain, but yet it's a baby mountain. It's not a mountain. It's just a big, huge bump in the earth, I guess you'd say. We get down to the bottom of it, and we're supposed to start heading back up this other ridge to get out. Well, that part of the trail is washed out. But I started noticing that, and I've got it on video, but it's one of those deals that my camera was on my dash. So like the frame width of the picture is literally just the hood of my 4Runner, and you can kind of see in front and out to the side. But when we get down at the bottom of this is where you meet up with the creek or river that runs with it. Where we were supposed to turn left to head back up the hill on this one trail was completely washed out. We could not get up through it, and it was like, these are both our daily drivers. We're not going to tear our stuff up. So we start driving, and you kind of follow the creek. And when we had stopped, I had to stop and let him go because it was a long mud hole. It wasn't real deep, but it was just long, and I didn't want to let him get through. So if he gets stuck, I can pull him out, or anyway.
Vice versa, yeah.
So I look over here to my right, and there is like this tree stump that just looks out of place. And I'm going to say, when I'm in the driver's seat, look to my right, 30 feet, maybe 30 feet, not very far. Just this weird tree stump, but you can only see it like through the leaves, through all the other brush. It's just a miscolored tree stump. Okay. And so I was just kind of putting along at 2 miles an hour going, that tree looks weird.
Yeah.
Then we start driving, we go up to the next road that's supposed to take us back up the hill. It's washed out. So now our 2-hour trip has already turned into about 4 hours. So we stop, we gather up, we look, and we can follow this trail around. So now our 2-hour trip has turned into 6 hours because it's just like slow going. This tree stump followed us all the way out of the park. He never saw it. And I never said anything to him because I just kept looking. I'm like, that's the same tree. What kind of tree is this? And, and it was always, like I said, it was always like 30, 40 feet away. Just far enough back in the brush that you're like, that looks like a tree stump, but it's a weird color. Because, like an oak tree, it's not brown. An oak tree is gray.
Yeah.
This was gray and brown. And I just remember looking, and I've got it on cam. I'd have to show you the video and stop it, and it'd be hard for me to even stop it at the right point because it's just like you can barely see it. So this thing, I see it 3 times when we're down by this creek. Okay, so then when we finally get to head back up the hill, we head up the hill and we get to this spot that's a gathering point, and people have kind of cleared it. It's actually what they call around here called a glade, but it's rocks. It's just a rock glade. And we get up there and we stop, and I'm just kind of looking around, and it's one of those things there's nothing going on. There's no real sounds. It's like a Monday in the middle of the day, and it had rained a little bit, so everything was really quiet. But you could hear stuff moving.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, where, and he's not paying any attention to this at all. And I'm like, where is this movement that I keep hearing? And it was all around us. And I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. So then we start heading out. So now you're up on top of the mountain, but you're heading out. And as we're getting back out to the main road, this stinking tree stump is there again. And then as we're leaving, you kind of when you pop out of the woods, you go right back onto the main road. It's just you just pop out right there. So as I'm leaving, I look over because he was leading. I look over, same thing, about 30 feet into the woods is this weird colored tree stump. I mean, it was probably 5 feet tall, 4 feet tall. And then as we're popping out, I look over and here's another one on the left side, looks exactly like that one. And as we were getting out on the main road, he's already way up there, and I couldn't get my 4Runner out of 4 low, probably because it's been in 4 low for 6 hours. It didn't want to come out. And I was having trouble, and I kept dude, I don't feel right now. And I was getting antsy, I couldn't get it out of 4 low.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing that, I'm looking in my mirrors, and all I see is one shadow go across the trail that I just left. It's probably 100 feet behind me, but in my rearview mirrors, I could just see this just a shadow is whatever was on the trail, just go right across the trail. And I was like, what the heck did I just see? And I pop it into 4 high, and I'm screw this, I'm out of here. And I finally got it into drive, and I'm like, I don't know what I just saw. I don't know, but those tree stumps, they look the same all the way through. How do you get 6 tree stumps that are the exact same height, the exact same color, that follow you and are about 30 feet away all the time?
That's a trip, dude.
So weird. Don't know what that was. Don't even have a clue.
What's a trip too is I know who's I talking to? Amanda. She's out of she has a podcast. It's called Spooky Tokyo or something like that. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, Spooky Tokyo podcast. They have a lot of moving trees out there in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And they said you got to be careful because those trees are alive. It kind of makes you wonder,
I don't know, who knows? And that's the thing too, is that I hear all these podcasts and people talk about, they always hear these bipedal footsteps. And I'm just like, I get so tired of hearing the same story over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, something was walking up to you. The most scared that I have ever been camping. And dude, I thought I was going to, and my wife and I were in this little 2-man tent.
Yeah.
We had drove to go to this state park, and we got there, it was already closed. So we backtracked and went and stayed at a private campground. And this is like in the middle of the week. It would have been in the fall, because I remember it was our anniversary. So it was like towards the end of October. So leaves were already on the ground a little bit. So we get to this campground. It's already late, and we're the only ones in this campground. All these big, huge, tall trees everywhere. It was really cool looking. The where you checked in at was actually the people's home, but it was like a mile back up this gravel road. So we go down there, we get everything set up, we eat real quick, and then we're just laying in there. It's late, getting ready to go to bed. And I will tell you what, something started walking up from the river that was below us. And you could hear it. It was crunch, 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 crunch. Just, and then it would stop. You wouldn't hear anything. Then you'd hear it start walking again. It was 2 steps every time. Step, 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 step. And it was like, it was going kind of back and forth, but it was getting close.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out there by yourself and there's nothing else, you don't hear anything. All you're hearing is crunching. Everything sounds really big.
That was magnified.
So this thing crunches right up to the back of our tent, walks around our tent, comes up to the front door. Just step, 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 step. And I didn't have a gun on me. I had a knife. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to do. This sounds huge, because it was like crunch, 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 crunch. So me being me, I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to take a peek. I start unzipping the front, and it's like right there. It's not moved. It's still right there. And I've got my knife out, and I'm unzipping, and I look, and I'm kind of like literally almost getting ready to lunge and start going after whatever's right there. You know what it was? A baby skunk. A baby skunk. It looked at me, and it took off. And you know what it was doing? It was hopping. It was taking 2 hops. It would hop, 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 hop. Dude, it sounded like a freight train coming through the woods.
Dude.
So, you know, I can understand people thinking something sounds really big, but a little 5-pound baby skunk sounded like a freight train coming through the woods at night.
Yeah. Not only that, too, half the time when people say stuff, they don't go fully investigate like you did just to see what it actually is.
Well, we had another time, we weren't camping. We had just drove out to another state park. It was me and some of my friends. And of course, we were out there late at night when we weren't supposed to be there. But we had parked, and we had hiked down to the bottom of this ridge area. And we were just sitting down there throwing rocks in the creek. And we kept hearing rocks rolling down the cliff or the hill, coming down through like somebody was rolling rocks at us. Not big rocks, you know, like size of baseball, softball, you know.
Yeah.
And you'd hear a lot of leaf litter movement. And we're like, what the heck is up there? So we walk back around, and we get up on top of where this stuff would have been rolling down at us. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. It never stopped. Stuff just kept rolling down this hill. So we finally get up there, and we get to looking down the hill. We got our flashlights out looking. It was a bunch of armadillos digging in the dirt, and they were just chucking rocks out, and they're just rolling down the hill. I was like, I thought we were dying, you know, just hearing armadillos. I'm like, no way. I was scared to death. I was like, we're going to die tonight. Something is throwing rocks at us, and here we're dumb enough. Now we're up on top above it, looking at it. Armadillos.
That's what I'm saying, man. People don't go out and investigate. They just hear what they hear and like don't go. You know how it is in scary movies. What's that noise? And they go, you know. But I'm just saying, you know, just go kind of take a peek at least. Don't let the imagination run wild. Try to get solid evidence, man.
Yeah, it was. I've got a spot where once we kind of figure out where Crystal's at and her journey she's going through right now. Once we get that all figured out, I've got a spot it's above a state park from here. I'm not going to say where it's at because
Yep.
I've already listened to one podcast where they were talking about their Bigfoot sighting there that some fishermen had. And I've talked to my friend that lives out there, and I talked to another guy, and they said there's been multiple sightings. And the time that we went hiking up there, we had gone to the like the guest center and got something to drink, and then we were going to go hiking up through there. And there was a guy, an older gentleman. I say he's probably in his 60s, the grandpa of these two little kids out there running around. And I think Crystal had gone to the bathroom or something. So me being me, I just started talking to him. I figured they're probably from Missouri. They're fishing and all this and that. And come to find out, he was the fire chief at this little town just west of me, like 10 miles, maybe not even 10 miles, 5 miles. And he's a fire chief there. And then Crystal comes out and she's like, oh, what are you guys talking about? And I said, oh, just talking, little guys out here riding their bikes and, and she always likes to make fun of me. She's like, oh, you'll just talk to anybody. And the guy goes, yeah. We were just talking. And I said, yeah, we're just getting ready to go up here, go hiking. And I said, we're going to see if we can find Bigfoot. He goes, it's a great place to be looking. And Crystal kind of looks at me and she's like, can't believe you just did this. This is like third or fourth time I've just said Bigfoot to random people and you start getting stories.
Yeah.
And this guy is the fire chief. Yeah, fire chief in this little town. And he starts telling this story. And he starts talking about all these podcasts that he listens to, and all this and that. And I'm just sitting here just kind of giggling inside going, yep, I did it again. Another person that's got a story. And he starts telling this story where he ran into one just down the road. And I'm like, cool. We go hiking on this trail. And I told her, I said, you watch every person that we see and we talk to. If they talk to us, I'm going to bring up Bigfoot every time and see what we say. We run into the first lady. She didn't want to talk. She was hiking and she was out of the way. We run into a guy that him and his girlfriend had hiked the Appalachian Trail and all this and that. And I said something about Bigfoot. And he goes, dude, let me tell you, people that don't think Bigfoot's real, it's real. And he'd had run-ins and he goes, I've never seen it, but what happened to me, it was definitely not just your run-of-the-mill animal out there. And I'm just like, Crystal's like, I wish you would stop doing this. And then another time we go hiking down in Arkansas, every person we talked to, I said Bigfoot to, and every one of them had a story. And one old guy was from Hanobi, Oklahoma. And that is like kind of a Bigfoot hotspot, I guess you'd say. It's also kind of
Skinwalker hotspot.
Yeah. And you said Skinwalker. I completely forgot about that story. But yeah, every person we talked to had a Bigfoot story.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah. And the old people at the end when we left, I said, well, hey, we didn't see Bigfoot down on the trail, so you guys are good to go. And the little old lady goes, oh, yeah, those boogers are out there for sure. And I was like, booger again.
There you go.
I was like, dude, it's just like something's out there. Don't know what it is, but something's definitely, there's too many stories,
Yeah, that's true, man. Not all of them could be lying, It's a lot of people.
But yeah, it's like we may have to have a part 2 of this conversation because I've got more stories and we can have a whole entire podcast of a skinwalker story of a good friend of mine and his grandpa. And I was like, I had never heard the word skinwalker any time through my life until I was about 18, 19, 20 years old. It was in that same, about that time of my life, and I was hanging out with this kid, and he was he was half Cherokee. His dad's full-blooded. His mom was white, but his grandparents lived with him.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma lived in the house with him, but Grandpa lived in the shed out back.
Yeah. Okay.
No kidding. The only reason the grandparents lived with them is that they had been kicked out of whatever reservation they lived at in Oklahoma, I think,
Okay.
somewhere. Grandpa was a medicine man and not the good kind medicine man.
Mm.
And so we're like, dude, you're just full of it. You are full of crap. He's like, no, this is the story. This is the story. And he starts telling us all this stuff. And his grandpa would never, ever talk to us, ever. And he would not go in the house. He stayed out in this garage shed. And his grandpa would just disappear and be gone for like a week or two, and just be gone.
Yeah.
And then just show back up. He didn't drive. He would just disappear and be gone. And so his grandpa had this thing, and this there's kind of another story that goes along with this. If his grandpa would get in a car and have to ride anywhere, anytime he would get out of the car, it didn't matter wherever he was at, he would get out and he'd clap his hands as loud as he could 3 times, and then go wherever he had to go, get back into the car, ride to wherever it was, clap his hands 3 times when he got out, come home, clap his hands 3 times. Come to find out, that was something to let the spirits know that he was there,
Okay.
or calling the spirits in to him, or something along that line. So I'm listening to a podcast, I think it was like Bobo Fay or whatever, was talking about he knew a medicine man, and he'd come down to where they're at, and he would clap his hands 3 times, and like birds would start chirping and this and that. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really familiar. But his grandpa was wild. And he said, well, they said that he was a skinwalker. And I'm like, what's a skinwalker? I don't know what a skinwalker is. Years down the road, you start hearing this whole thing about skinwalker. And as the story goes, so they said that sometimes they say skinwalker, guys that are skinwalkers have had to kill a family member or something to become that.
Mm-hmm.
This kid's aunt died mysteriously when she was young.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's just like this story that I didn't believe is now like, oh.
Making sense, yeah.
And like I said, and finally this kid's grandpa just disappeared one day and never came back. Just gone. He was old. He may have just wandered off because he was like senile or something, but he would do that all the time. He would just disappear and then come back about a week later, and they have no idea where he was at.
Man, that's a trip.
Yeah, and he was definitely, he would, we'd be out there at his house, and he'd be out there in that shed area just doing stuff, just Native American stuff. I don't know what he was doing, but every time you got around him, he was a scary individual. I get around somebody and you just kind of feel it. You're like,
yes, you feel that aura.
Yeah, he was one. And it's like very seldom I ever feel that around people. But like, and my friend's dad kind of had that vibe too, but he was just like he was actually one of my teachers in high school. Just very stern, just real rigid. But once you got to talk to him, he was okay. But his grandpa, dude, it was. I wish I could talk to my friend, but I don't even know where he's at anymore. Just lose contact with people and hear more stories about him. But his grandma ended up in a nursing home, and my older sister, which was a nurse, worked at this nursing home for just a little bit, and they would this little old lady would have to have like a 5th of Jack Daniels every week. That was like written in her prescription from her doctor. Just let her have it; she'll be fine. So I'm like, okay. It's just crazy stories like that, man. But
That's good stuff, bro.
yeah, so I don't know, I don't know all the story about that, but the whole clapping 3 times, I've heard that like 2 different times with my friend, his grandpa, that other podcast, I think it was Bobo was talking about it. And then somebody else was talking about when they would get to an area, they would clap 3 times, and that would like awaken spirits and stuff like that, or it let things know that they were there. So I don't know. Next time you go out, maybe clap 3 times and get out and see what happens.
I'm gonna have to do some more digging into that. I have to talk to Jessica and this other guy named William Nighthawk. He used to be a practicing medicine man for the Apache, and he helps out with the DoD a little bit when it comes to skinny old skinwalker stuff like that. So I'm gonna ask him about that. What's the deal with the clapping of the 3 times wherever you go?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's there's some. I think they were Cherokee. Yeah, they were Cherokee. So I don't know if it may be. I don't know how it all works out, but who knows? But yeah. I mean, like I said, we may have to do part 2 of this thing and just do it again. But I've got more stories, and I was sitting here like looking at all the drones and stuff. Just a couple weeks ago, I was up at 3:30 in the morning to let my dog Baker out. He's got to come. He's got to go outside at 3:30 every day. Here comes one of these stinking drones right down the road behind our house. Big, like the size of a minivan. Just going down the highway. I'm like, what the heck is this thing? Like,
that's
I don't
nuts,
know.
Dude.
And it came down our road, or came down the highway behind our house, or just this road out here. And then it hung a right and went down another road. It's almost like it was, scanning the road, like mapping something is what it looked like to me, So I don't know if it was like, who knows? But there's still, you can go out there. You go out there right now, and I can pick out all the drones flying around in the sky. They're still here. They're still out here.
That's a trip, yeah. Because I remember they had all that drone crap happen on the east, like northern East Coast, New York, and all that, and then heading towards Ohio. And they said the drones are about the size of freaking minivans, to small buses, to like Beetles, man.
Well, I've got a video of the one that flew directly over our house, and that thing was the size of a small car. And it was only probably like, say, 80 to 100 feet in the air. It's kind of hard to tell, when it's right above your head, actually how far it is, but it was the size of a small car. And I was like, and you could see it because there's enough haze in the sky, and the lights that were on it illuminated it, the light reflecting off all the moisture that was in the air. You could see it. And like the one that just came down the road the other morning, like, about a month ago, I'd say now, the street lights that come down on that road, there's enough light in the air, you could just see it perfectly. It's just in the daylight, just coming down the road. And I'm like, what the heck is that? But we have, man. Like, there is a military airport. It's not a military airport, but it's where the military do land their planes here in Springfield, and like UPS and FedEx land out there, and they've got all types of hangars and stuff out there. And I think it's an Army Reserve.
Oh, like like a National Guard,
something kind of like that. It's out there, so
yeah.
But yeah, my friend that lives closer to it, he said that he sees them all the time, still flying, and he goes, they come from right there and just head out.
Yeah, bet you they're weird. They're running some recon or observation or testing stuff. Who knows, man?
Yeah, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's UFO type stuff." Like, nah, that was government. It was, if that was the case, we'd have been blowing stuff out of the air. I'd say it was all.
Oh yeah, dude, it's us. It's all us for sure. 100%, dude.
I sometimes they think we're pretty dumb. Oh, we don't know what it is. Well, if you didn't know what it was, you'd be blowing it out of the sky.
100%, dude. 100%. Yeah. Just take a step back and think, dude. Seriously.
Yeah. If I go try to run onto a base, I'm getting blown up. Yeah. It's like, that's how it is.
Yeah,
But
that's how it is too. You know, if you freaking fly your drone over a military base, they're gonna shoot it down or take it
shoot it out
over,
of the sky real
and then
quick.
you're gonna have black suits knocking at your door, like, "What the freak you doing, man?"
Yeah,
That's the
it's
shit.
wild. But
But yeah,
yeah,
man. But yeah, definitely, Jared. Yeah, man, we're coming up on the time, dude. I'm gonna have you on for part 2 for sure. But yeah, man, that's good stuff, dude. Yeah, I appreciate your stories, man. That's good stuff.
oh,
And
dude,
yeah,
I've got more. I've got
yeah, we're
more.
gonna have
Just
we have to
it's some of
have
them
to
are
have you
just
on again.
it's just wild stuff, you know. And it's like there's other times hiking. Another time we stayed at an Airbnb in this little bitty town out in the middle of nowhere, and I can tell you that one real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This all happened like right after. This would have been say end of September of last year, beginning of October. We stayed in this little town at an Airbnb, and just a little one room cabin, super nice, but it was in the middle of the woods. I mean, in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So we had got there that night, ate supper and all this and that. And I mean, this is a little town of like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And so there's just nothing there. So we were sitting out in the back of the place. I had made a bonfire and everything. And, you know, we were kind of in a, you know, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with our life right now. You know, we just got all this news of cancer and all this and that. We don't know what's going on. We made this bonfire and we're sitting there and we're kind of like, you're hearing the coyotes, you know, around. But earlier in the day, we had hiked down there, just walked down the road, and we kept hearing people talking out in the woods. And there was a house back there, but it didn't look
Yeah.
like anybody was in that home. But you could hear people talking, you know, like 200 yards away, just that how sound travels through the woods.
Yeah.
Didn't pay any attention to it at all. Get back to the cabin. It's dark. Start the bonfire. And we're sitting there talking, and you can kind of hear that the talking is closer because where we
Yeah.
were at compared to where we were hiking, we were actually closer. So it was 3 people out there talking. Whatever, no big deal. Hear some coyotes, and then we hear the owls start hooting. And they're kind of off out in the woods a little bit, and there's 3 of them. Funny that there was 3 voices. Now there's 3 owls. And my wife is not caught on to this at all. I'm already into like, okay, I just heard 3 voices about an hour ago. Now we're hearing 3 owls all in relatively in front of us. 1, 2, 3, you know, so right, middle, left. And, you know, it's like, yeah, no big deal. They just keep getting closer and closer and louder and louder. You know, like whatever. They're just owls. We have owls here. We have great horned owls that sit out here in the trees behind our house, and they're huge. You can be watching TV and you can hear them hooting in your backyard. So keep hearing these 3 owls. So I'm like, well, man, I'm getting tired, you know. So Chris was like, okay, I'm going to go on in. So I was just kind of knocking the fire down, and these owls are now like on the property where we're at. 2 of them are over here towards my right, and there's a third one that's over here to my left. It sounds big, like, and I'm kind of looking. I cannot see him. I didn't have a flashlight on me, and the 2 to my right stopped making noise. Just like all of a sudden they just stopped, and they've been hooting and like, you know, back and forth, very close, very loud. And dude, this is the only time that I can tell you that I'm like, I don't know what it was. This owl, all of a sudden, felt like it was about 600 pounds. You know, the 600-pound owl. This thing rushes up towards me and hoots so loud, like right in my face, but there's nothing there.
Mm.
And I was just like, did this just really happen? And that was it. And it just literally felt like there was something there to my left, probably about 10 feet from me. It made a hoot like an owl, and it was huge. Then I'm sitting there listening, like just the other day, I was scrolling through something, and I guess Tony Merkel again, and his boy one of his guys had an incident where something rushed up on them, and they felt it, they heard it, and when they looked, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if I don't know, but whatever rushed up towards me, I could feel the size of it, but there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the heck? I don't know what that is. I've heard a lot of people say that, but it's weird when it happens to you. I mean, I've been in places where you kind of like, you have that, everybody says, like, oh, I feel like something was watching me. Well, you go out in the woods, there's stuff watching you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this was just like, it felt like I don't know, like just like a 600-pound owl just flew up on me.
Yeah.
It just felt huge, and the hoot was big, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna kick the fire down. I'm going inside. You guys can have whatever you need. And I just walked in. But it was weird. It was very strange. I've never had it like that happen before. But
yeah,
it was one of those. I just turned around, walked in. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, that's basically all you can do, man. Because you really can't fight what you can't see.
No. It's
yeah. What's funny is you mentioned about Tony is when I was over there hanging out with him, he showed me the video to that. They caught it on video.
Yeah.
So they had the video facing the woods, but they also had a camera on the other side facing Tony. They were talking about something, and you hear something massive running through the woods. It's like someone's got a four-wheeler, and they're just mowing over trees, dude. You hear it. And then Tony's like, whoa, and pulls out his gun, and the camera zooming, and the freaking trees right there, and the bushes are just shaking, and it stops. And there's nothing. And then next thing you know, you hear all the freaking bugs and stuff come back. And they're like, what the freak was that? And yeah, stuff like that, you don't know. Like, to me, these things are interdimensional. I don't know. I don't know. You can see through them. I don't know. Spirits, whatever. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like you see to say a white-tailed deer, you can see it, and then the next thing you know, it's gone. They just blend into stuff so easy.
So good.
And it's like, if you ever look at a white-tailed deer, they're not brown. There's all different colors in them, and when they walk into the woods, they just disappear until you see their tail, or they turn their face and you see white somewhere else. But I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just an animal. Other times I think it's a little bit of everything. Other times I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
All I know is that if I run into whatever that is, I have lots of clips with these little lead things that come flying out.
Fries. Yeah.
I will empty everything I have, and then if I got to stab, I will stab.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man.
Who knows, man? But yeah, we'll have to do a round 2 of this. I got more for you.
For sure, dude. Yeah, man. Other than that, we're about out of time. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you at, your business, all that stuff, man? Give a couple plugins.
You can find me on Instagram mainly, SteadFast Overland. Like I said, I've kind of backed off for a little bit on everything. I'm kind of trying to, ramp everything back up again. I've been kind of just laying low for a little bit, with all this stuff going on with my wife and things like that. It was like, sometimes you got to just put everything on the back burner and just, like, the days that she said, I just want to sit on the couch and just watch TV. Okay, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So there's a lot of that going on, and it's like I said, it's a journey we weren't prepared for. It's. I mean, we're doing good. I mean, you say stage 4 breast cancer and people start freaking out, but it's like, nah, we're going to treat it into remission. she doesn't get to do, she won't have any radiation or chemotherapy, stuff like that, because had spread to both breasts, the lymph node, her sternum, and her like upper right femur. So the doctor's like, we're going to walk a marathon is what we're going to do. So we got to treat it this way. It's hormone driven. So basically what they did is they put her on hormone blockers. They threw her into menopause within like a 2-week period, which was wild. So I don't recommend anybody ever having to do that. It was pretty crazy, but now we're getting her good and going. And like I said, she's the toughest thing I've ever seen. So, for someone to have stage 4 breast cancer and the way she's having to treat it, she's not even missed a day of work,
Yeah.
I'm like, so anytime I feel sick and don't want to go to work, I have to sit there and look at her and go, okay, I guess I got to put my big boy pants on and go to work.
Yeah.
Call it good. I'm like, I just want a break. Nope, bud, go to work. So, but no, we're good. So yeah, Instagram, SteadFast Overland. All the information's on there. A couple different emails, they're all on there. Like I said, I just got to get things kind of up and moving again. It's just kind of on a journey that I wasn't prepared for right now. So we're kind of rearranging everything, and hey, we got a smile on our face. God's got us, and we'll go where we go,
Amen to that, man. Sometimes you got to take a day at a time or 30 minutes at a time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're not living like we got it. So we're going to go just keep on kicking ass is all we're going to do.
Words Joe Dirt. Keep on keeping on, man.
Yeah, man. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a shout out, man. I had to freaking throw on the hat, bro. I love this hat, dude.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
The beanie, I literally wear that freaking beanie almost every day. Like, dude, like when I sleep, I always got to throw a beanie on. I wear that beanie all the damn time, bro. I love that beanie, bro.
Yeah, I had the green ones and black ones. I think I don't remember which one I sent you. Who knows?
Yeah.
I try to hook my boys up. So you may just get boxes in the mail. I've got new hats. I've actually got let's see right here. More your style right here.
Okay.
The curved bill,
Yeah.
I'm old school, BMX guys. So we always go with the flat brim.
Flat bills. There you go.
I'll send you one of these redneck ones right here, bud.
I ain't redneck, but that'll work right on.
Hey,
all right.
You're in Tennessee, dude. You're redneck.
Yeah. More like a brown neck.
Yeah. You said it, not me. You did.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, dude, I love these damn things though, man. Like I got all these everywhere, bro. But yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, we're definitely praying for your wife, praying for you guys, dude. And like I said, you need anything, you got my number, give me a call. So
yeah.
Other than that, man, I'm like I said to everyone, I'm gonna plug all this information in the show notes, dude. Jarrett, appreciate you, big dog.
No problem.
Yeah, bro, definitely get you on here for round 2, man, for sure.
Yeah.
And but before we go, don't hang up. I'm gonna end it, and then we'll chit chat for 5 minutes. I'll let you be. So
yeah.
But other than that, guys, that basically wraps up the show. We're gonna have him back on for round 2 eventually, and you want to hit him up, hit this dude up. I'll have all his information in the show notes. So. Other than that, guys, appreciate you guys listening. You guys got any experiences or anything like that? You guys got any prayer requests? You guys want to chit-chat? Hit me up on cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com or Instagram, cryptidwarfare. So, all right, hope you guys have a blessed week. And remember, guys, we're not just wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of this age. Ephesians 6:12. So, hope you guys have a blessed week, and we'll catch you guys later.